So today we're going to do another efficiency test on the Tesla Model X, but the conditions are going to be quite different in that the temperature has reduced quite considerably. It's damp, it's windy, and the terrain is not going to be level. So therefore that will have an impact, or rather we'll see how much of that has an impact on the range and efficiency of the car. So the first thing to do, of course, is to unplug the car. Now you can actually just press this button here and stop it charging, but for some reason my plug or connector is a bit temperamental, so it doesn't do that. That's why I have to do it internally. So that's the cable nicely stowed away, well, relatively nicely stowed away, and so let's get on with our journey. So this is where we are heading this morning. We are heading to, well, eBack Industrial Products Limited in County Durham, Bishop Auckland in fact. So that should take us 2 hours 53 minutes and we should arrive there around midday. Now we are, it should take us 3 hours. We're going to go along the A1 road. We're not going to take the A68, because that road is not so, in my view, is not such a nice road. It's a single carriage road all the way, whereas the A1 in some places is a dual carriage road. So that's where we'll head, and I'll see you on the road in a few minutes. So before we head off to County Durham, we have a few errands to run in Edinburgh. So quite a bit of our mileage will be in Edinburgh itself, probably about 7 or 8 miles before we head out onto the A1. So we're on our way to Bishop Auckland now. Slight delay. It's now 9:47 in the morning, so I got delayed by about 3/4 of an hour just leaving Edinburgh. So this is the route we are going to take. Originally I said we would take the A1, but we are just going to stick with the A68, the way the sat-nav has suggested, and we should get there for around 12:40 PM, 127 miles still to go. Now just a few points. The temperature has slightly gone up from 15 to 17 degrees Celsius. So 15 degrees Celsius is 50 degrees Fahrenheit. And the road conditions have slightly improved as well, in that it's stopped raining. Oh, here's a truck coming out. Crikey, that is dangerous. But anyway, that's truck drivers for you. So right now we are on autopilot, and we're going to try and use this as much as we can, but I think on the A68 that's going to be fairly limited. Because it's a single carriage road and we don't really want to use it that much. So next stop hopefully will be somewhere on the A68, and we'll catch up with you then. Just another couple of points I wanted to make. During this journey the climate control is going to be set at 21 degrees Celsius, which is 72 degrees Fahrenheit, so that's always going to be on. The tire pressures are at 42 psi, I think. So let's just check that. Let's see, how can we check that? Here we go. Yeah, so that's the tire pressure. So they're slightly below what they should be. Ideally, it should be at 42 psi. And as I said, we're on the city bypass. The speed limits on this section of the road is 70 miles an hour, so we'll make our way up to 70 miles an hour. And on the other A-class roads, I think the speed limit is 60 miles an hour, so we'll try to stick to that as much as we can. We're certainly not going to go over that. Okay, so catch you on the A68 soon. So we're now on the A68 heading to Bishop Auckland. nothing much has changed apart from the temperature. The temperature has now gone down to 15 degrees Celsius, as you can see. That's 50 degrees Fahrenheit. So that may affect the range in some way or form, and probably will reduce it. But as I said, once we get to Bishop Auckland, we'll go through the figures, and we'll see where we are. Now we're still on the A68. I've been using autopilot for quite some time now, and feeling more and more confident, which is something I didn't feel in the past. I think it's just a matter of getting used to it on single track roads. But using autopilot certainly makes life a lot easier. But also, one thing I forgot to mention at the end of the video, what we'll also go through is the cost of travel compared to an ICE vehicle. So that's one thing that we'll also run through the figures once we've finished the complete journey there and back. Right, I've arrived in County Durham now at EBAC Industrial Products, and along the A68. That's the route I took, as I said, and what an unpleasant road it is. It's so windy, single track, blind summits. Not an experience I want to repeat. So I will not be going back over the A68, despite what I said earlier on. I'll be heading back over the A1. But the most important thing is to have a look at the numbers now, see what we've achieved in terms of efficiency. So let's look at the data here now. So since this morning we have travelled, let me move this further away, it's a bit easier in the eye. So we have travelled 147 miles, 45 kilowatt hours, and an average energy usage of 305 watt hours per mile. Now, as I've said before, watt hours per mile is not really a unit that other people use. People use kilowatt hours per mile. So sorry, that's not true. A unit that we want to use is miles travelled per kilowatt hour. And how you do that is very straightforward. Since watt hours per mile, since there are 1,000 watts per kilowatt, all you do is you divide 1,000 divided by 305. That'll give you miles travelled per kilowatt hour. So, or you could do 147 divided by 45, which is the same thing. So that will give you 3.27 miles travelled per kilowatt hour, and that's pretty good. I mean, the temperature has risen, and perhaps maybe that's why the efficiency has gone up. But if you look at the energy chart, that is the topography over which we've travelled. Now, I'll show you one that I took earlier on, and this road, the A16, is just up and down like a yo-yo. It really is. It's a pretty unpleasant road to travel on, as I said earlier on, and that's perhaps why the energy usage is so high. But we're going to travel back on the A1 and see if that makes a difference or not. I suspect it won't make that much of a difference, but once we get back home, we'll have completed the whole trip, and we'll compare notes as to what the situation is. So this is why we made the journey down here to EBAC Industrial Products, and what they do is they manufacture and service dehumidifiers and related products. So if you ever need a dehumidifier, this is the place to come, or rather an industrial one. Anyway, now for the journey back, car's waiting for me already, so I better get going. So this is the journey back according to the computer. According to this, I'll not make it back to Edinburgh. I'll have to stop off at, here we are, I'm not sure where that is, somewhere along the road, or somewhere along the A1 anyway. But I'm going to try to, once I get to the supercharger, I'll see how much charge I have, and if I can make it back home, I'll try and just make it back without stopping. But we'll see how we get on, and the next stop will be as we pass the supercharger here, somewhere near Bamford. To check it. Adderston, yes, that's what it is. Adderstone services. So that's where it's suggesting we charge up for a few minutes, I think. but it's quite a busy supercharger, this one. But as I said, I will see what happens. I'll see you there. So here we are heading in, and there are the superchargers. I think there should be 4 available. So here we are. So home is 78 miles away. I have a rated range of, gosh, where is it? 43 miles there, if you can see that. So there you go, that's better view there, that's better. 43 miles. So what we'll do, we'll charge up here for a few minutes, 10 minutes. Well, at the moment it's 2:54 p.m. and at 3:05 I want to leave. So we'll see what charge we get in 10 minutes. Trips display. So that's where we are now. So we've travelled, what have we travelled? 225 miles and 68 kilowatts, 303 watt hours per mile. And at the end of the video I'll amalgamate the two trips, and I'll tell you exactly how efficient the car was, and you can make your own judgment from there. Right, just arrived home, and it's just after 5:30 now. So what are the final statistics? So on the second leg of the journey from Addiston Supercharger to Edinburgh, I travelled 80 miles using 27 kilowatt hours, and before that I travelled 223 miles at 68 kilowatt hours. So once you add the two of them together, it's a total of 303 miles travelled using 95 kilowatt hours, which is 3.18 miles per kilowatt hour, which is fairly consistent over the last 6,000 miles I've had with this car, and that's the kind of mileage that you can expect. Now, what Tesla are claiming is that you should get 3.7 miles per kilowatt hour, giving it a range of 370 miles. But that's really in optimum conditions, because if you look at the consumption map here, now this is only over the last 30 miles, and you can see the ups and downs on the map, and that's really a cross section of the road, really, you can see, because when I'm driving, I'm not making harsh acceleration or decelerating very quickly either. It's very smooth driving. So when a manufacturer is quoting a higher figure, they're only quoting that because the car's been tested in a laboratory with no wind resistance on a flat road, and yes, the car has started and stopped and accelerated and decelerated, but it doesn't take into account the topography of the road. So that's perhaps why that manufacturers quote a higher range than what can be actually achieved. Now, probably the most accurate one is the EPA range, which is used in the United States. Here in Europe we use WLTP, which is a bit more generous, and prior to WLTP being used, we use NEDC, which is just fiction. So you have to bear that in mind. But it's the same with any car. Even if it was an ICE car, it would be the same situation. As I said, electric cars are not given any more slack than an ICE car. Anyway, so that's the end of the video. So as I said, 3.18 miles per kilowatt hour, fairly consistent. Temperature today has been in our favour, actually, 20 degrees Celsius. We started off below that in the morning, but as the day went on, the temperature rose, and now in the evening it's still quite high for this time of year, that is. Okay, listen, so thank you very much for watching. Please like, subscribe and share. It would be very helpful if you can do that. It would be very much appreciated. And any comments below, and I'll see you in the next one. Thank you very much.